Welcome to the Local Pulse on HPC. I'm Dave Dicke, and today our guest is Winona Mayor Scott Sherman. Scott, thank you for taking time to join us today.
Hi, Dave. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
You bet. So let's start out. We'll talk a little bit about you. What inspired you to go into public service, and what led you into running for mayor?
I would say I wasn't necessarily inspired, but I had been asked by quite a few people within our community to run for office, everything from school board to county commissioner, council member, for the city of Winona. And I had gone through a leadership training program in 2015 where I went with a cohort of Winonans to this training event that was about a week long. And coming out of that, what I realized more than anything else is other people saw me as a leader in our community, which I don't necessarily think of myself as a leader, but when people that you respect start telling you things like that, and people had asked me to potentially think about running for office, it started working its way around in the back of my head. But eventually, I had Mark Peterson, our former mayor, had called me and had told me that he was not running again and that I should at least think about running for mayor. And so, um, the biggest hurdle there was getting my wife on board. We had a few conversations, but I think what really kind of changed the conversation most was my wife was able to meet with spouses or significant others of elected officials and kind of get an idea of what the time crunch was or the time suck, and then also what kind of commitment it took in terms of time and how it might affect our family. We had new little ones at the time; they were 1 and 3 years old. And one thing I think a lot of people don't really see or understand is how um, while I might have signed up for this role and the time commitment, my wife and my children did not. And so, um, getting not only their approval, but also having them behind me, supporting me, and allowing me to go out and do the things that I need to do in the role as mayor. Those are important. And I always try to recognize that with any elected official or a leader in our community, try to recognize that their families are usually the ones who are taking the brunt of that time commitment and having to deal with that most. So she finally came around, and I ended up running for mayor and threw my hat in the ring. $45 is all it takes. So a run.
Right. It's
Yeah,
good,
to get on
good
the
gig,
ballot.
right? Yeah.
Yep.
So, has your experience as mayor been everything you've thought it'd be? Any surprises or lessons learned along the way so far?
Many surprises and many lessons learned. I don't think I fully grasped the time commitment. I had a general idea, I was thinking maybe 5 to 10 hours a week. What happens though is there are some weeks where it's very low. It's 5 hours or less. There are other weeks where it's well over 50, 60, 70 hours a week, depending on what's happening in our community. Budget season tends to get a little bit busier. We're in the middle of budget season now. But I think um, there's quite a few things that I've learned along the way. I would say number one of the neatest things about being mayor is how many people I've met in our community and outside of our community, developing relationships and friendships with people. I would have never had that opportunity had I not been mayor. So it's really given me a good pulse on what what our community wants, and not only right now, but also in the future. And I think it's important to recognize, that all the decisions we make now are a lot of times going to impact our future decisions or developments or opportunities within our community. And so that all has been a learning experience for me, but it has also really taught me, given me a good understanding of the diversity of opinion that we have within our community.
Winona is always changing and always growing.
Mhm.
What are you most excited about right now when you look at the city projects and developments that are happening?
I think one of the things, it might not be like a bright new shiny building or anything like that. And, we're always working on things like that. I know there are some people in our community that see that as growth, specifically. I think honestly, for me, one of the things that I am most proud of is how our council has been able to work together on things. And even though we disagree from time to time, we have really done a good job of keeping aligned in terms of moving forward. I think if you let the pendulum swing too far left or too far right, a lot of times what you'll have is kind of kickback in the next election cycle. And our council changes over every 2 years. I've seen a lot of collaboration and I've made efforts to collaborate more with the county board. We've worked together on quite a few things. That's very exciting to me. Where I think in the past, the city and county haven't worked as well together as they should, or as community members expect us to. Um, so I've seen this kind of collaborative effort. Some things that we do behind the scenes are we meet with leaders of businesses and institutions within our community. We have three higher eds here, and I have very good relationships with all the administration at the three higher eds. Our city manager, Chad Ubel, does as well. And that gives us the opportunity to and then also like our K-12, our taxing authority through WAPS, the Port Authority, the county, the state even, it gives us an opportunity to work better with those different entities if we have conversations on a regular basis. It kind of gives us kind of a layout of what everybody's working on, what we're all looking to accomplish. And hopefully, if we can work together, I think in general that benefits the community as a whole. If we're able to have those conversations, collaborate when possible, and then moving forward on those initiatives if they are, again, appropriate for a community. So I'm really proud of that. And I think that's something that isn't normally just, out front because it's not a big bright, shiny new building or something like that. But if you go around town right now, there's a lot of stuff happening, and that's good. COVID kind of stunted that, but now we have the opportunity to really uh, grab the reins and move forward, and that's exciting for me.
Now, I know one thing that the city struggles with each year is state aid, federal aid. Seems like it keeps decreasing. And then we've got all this infrastructure that the city has to maintain. So how do you go about addressing things like road maintenance and sewers, public transportation, sustainability, and all those things with that funding decreasing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first step in doing anything like that is understanding that different community members are going to have different opinions on what needs to get done or what priorities are. I will have one person tell me that we need to fix potholes and dump money into streets. We have other people who tell us that we need bright new shiny buildings. I have other people who tell us that we need more housing. I have other people that tell me that we need to work on mental health initiatives, parks, healthy, safe, clean places to live, work, and play. So with all those different opinions coming at us, it is oftentimes harder to determine what our priorities should be. And not only do I have six other council members that we work together and give direction, but also I trust in our staff. We have 182 employees, I think, total, and they do a phenomenal job of identifying what priorities should be. And oftentimes, unfortunately, that falls back into what needs it most. So we'll have a leaky roof on one of our city buildings. Well, we can keep patching it and patching it and patching it, but at some point we're going to have to bite the bullet and replace that whole roof. And so staff does a phenomenal job of kind of sending those priorities up to council and giving us the opportunity to decide which way to go with that. We did see a small increase in local government aid from the state in the last uh, session last year. It went up, I want to say about 800,000, which is great. So we're up, maybe it was less than that, but we're up at just under 11 million received from the state. Um, and we almost saw a cut this year, or at least there was a threat of that cut. But one of the things that we've done that, again, I'm really proud of is we have shored up our reserve funds. And so we are at or above what we would like to see for reserve fund balances. So we're prepared for that rainy day. So we were prepared if LGA had gotten cut this year, we were ready and able to be able to weather the storm, let's say, until that money was reinstated from the state. But that's part of scenario forecasting, kind of figuring out where shortfalls might happen, where overruns and cost might happen. We've done a great job with that, but getting specifically to like streets, we used to spend between 800,000 and a million on streets every year until the recession happened. I would call it kind of between 2010 and 2013 in that range. We had to go through extensive cuts that included staff that also shrunk the portion of the pie for streets. So we brought it down to about 500,000 a year. And we have to remember Winona is one of the oldest cities in the state of Minnesota and was one of the largest cities at one point. So a lot of our infrastructure is very old. That actually benefits us in terms of receiving LGA. So that is calculated in. We do receive more LGA based on our population than a newer community would. A community that was developed in the 40s or the 50s or something like that. I mean, we're almost 175 years old here. So some of our infrastructure underneath those streets is not 175 years, but it's 150, it's pushing 150 years old. So, a lot of times streets, people will say, well, why are you doing this street? It's not the worst street. Well, it might not be, but the infrastructure underneath is. And so when we pull up a street, we get in there and we replace water, sewer, stormwater, and make sure that those are up to snuff for the next 50 years. And so we're not just doing a street, we're doing the infrastructure underneath it. And we have a phenomenal staff that has identified priorities. And while sometimes on the surface, literally on the surface, it doesn't look like it needs it necessarily, but there is infrastructure underneath that. And then we're also getting a paved street on top of it at the same time. So that's one example, but really prioritizing, being aware and kind of inventorying where we're at with infrastructure needs, and then being able to make those decisions based on the information that we have presently. Those are the primary ways that we move forward on deciding what receives, the work that we need to do to make sure that it's sustainable for a long time.
We're going to take a real quick break. Our guest today is Winona Mayor Scott Sherman. We'll be back with more of the Local Pulse.
The Command IQ app helps me manage the Wi-Fi in every room of the house however I want.
My husband used to have abs, but now he just has flabs.
It's not a book club meeting, it's a make fun of me meeting. Well, what happens in book club doesn't always stay in book club.
Honey, my Wi-Fi is down. That never happens.
Well, that's strange. Well, we'll see if we can get someone to come fix it next month.
Welcome back to the Local Pulse on HPC. I'm Dave Dicke, and our guest today is Winona Mayor Scott Sherman. And again, Scott, thank you for being with us on the Local Pulse today.
Thank you.
So what are the biggest challenges that are facing the city right now? And then how, as an administration with council, how do you address those?
Yeah, so I would say one of our biggest challenges right now that's recognized not only in the city of Winona, but the county, the state, and quite honestly across the nation is housing. There have been a few different housing studies done in the last I would say 8 to 10 years, that have shown that we're short on housing. And the real reason for that is household size is shrinking, and we're seeing that from multiple sources. Um, I believe right now in Winona County, the average household size is 1.2 people. Um, you look at your parents or our grandparents, you'll hear stories. Oh, we raised 9 people in a one bathroom home, and we only had 3 bedrooms. You hear those stories all the time. And my mom was one of 9. I am one of 2. I now have 3 children, which is we're up in the number a little bit in our household here. But on average, you're seeing more single people or couples who are not having children, or single parents where it's just a parent and a child in the house. But in general, people are having less children. And so the household sizes are shrinking. Um, which leaves less inventory available, whether it's regardless of what price point that housing is at, or if it's an apartment, a townhouse, or a single family home, that each unit has less people in it. And so we've identified that in the next 10 years, we need to try and add 770 housing units in the city of Winona. That is daunting when you look at it and you're like, boy, we don't have much room here in Winona to do that. One of the unique challenges of Winona is that we have to redevelop land, or it's what we call brownfield, instead of greenfield, where you just have a farm field you can buy and just keep building out and building out. And you'll see that in newer communities or kind of outer ring suburbs of like the Twin Cities, Rochester. Now you'll see that they're expanding outwards and outwards. So the city boundaries are still there, but the surrounding communities are growing quickly. And a lot of times they're doing that through buying up large chunks of land and then developing on those, however they do that. Now, Winona is not a developer. The city of Winona, we are not developers. We're not going to put money, we're not going to build houses or apartment buildings. We're not going to invest in a property directly. But what we do have the opportunity to do is through our community development department, and we've got great staff in there. That includes planning, development, and then also inspections within that office. And they do a phenomenal job of being able to identify opportunities through grants and other funding sources to be able to help initiate some of those projects. So right now, it is fairly difficult with interest rates the way they are, labor cost, and then also materials cost. Housing is very expensive right now, and that's why you don't see a ton of housing being built unless it is got some kind of subsidy built into it. And that can mean anything from a discounted rate on a loan, a gap loan to help them kind of make up that gap that the banks aren't willing to give to developers, or sometimes it is forgivable loans. So our community development department has done a phenomenal job of identifying what opportunities we can use or tools we can put in our toolbox to help increase housing opportunities for development within our community. And one of the things that we've done recently is we created a housing trust fund. That's fairly new in the state of Minnesota, where we are allowed to basically create a pool of money to hold funds that we can use for different tools to help increase development of housing within our community. One of the things that is often forgotten, everybody thinks new, build new, tear down, clean it, put up something new. That is one of the things that we do. But another thing that we're trying to do is maintain housing inventory. So my neighbor is a great example. I had a neighbor that had lived there her whole adult life, fairly small house, low cost, but she was getting to the age where she couldn't take care of certain things within her home. So through the city of Winona, we do have opportunities to receive funding to help maintain that home. There are also, just fix-it groups through Habitat for Humanity, City of Winona, County of Winona, where people can go out and actually work on your house a little bit. You got a gutter that's torn off. Well, eventually that's going to cause more issues. So just nailing it back up and getting it in place again or fixing that can save that homeowner a lot of money in the long term. It also maintains the housing inventory because that person might not have the wherewithal to fix it once it gets into water damage inside of the house. And so maintaining older inventory is part of that, but also building new is also part of that redevelopment. And then looking at density as well. Single family homes aren't always the best in terms of density. You've got, 1.2 people living in a large 3,000 square foot house. That's not the best use of space always. I mean, obviously people want that. So we have to have that available, but looking at density and zoning and ordinance changes, those are also things that we use to help and try and increase housing within our community. But that's probably the biggest thing right now that a lot of different people and entities are focusing on is increasing housing.
We got about 5 minutes left, Scott. So I'm going to give you one last question here.
Okay.
What is your long-term vision for Winona? What do you see in the next 5, 10 years?
Yeah. So one of the things that I'm really excited about that we've been working on behind the scenes for a while now, and I did talk quickly about working with other groups, especially our higher eds, our K-12 schools within our community. I truly believe that us adults are making decisions for the youth in our community every single day. And very infrequently, they have an opportunity to give input on that. One of the things that I'm working on is creating a youth council of sorts, and don't really know how it's all going to look yet. We're still working through it, but we've been meeting with administrators at the schools within our community, all three higher eds, as well as the K-12 groups within our community. I would like to create a youth council and start to receive some input from them. It's going to be kind of twofold. They're going to have a learning opportunity to find out how government works, but also they will have an opportunity to give us input on things that we're looking at doing or trying to figure out what the priority would be. I can tell you right now, youth want parks. That is, parks and environment is probably their biggest concern anytime I'm talking with youth within our community. And that goes everything from like kindergartners all the way up to college age students. And that is something that I hope to really start now. And, I'm not sure how much longer I'm going to be mayor. It might be this term, might be next term, might be 20 years from now. I don't know. But I would love to see that really grow organically, where we have an opportunity to really hear from our youth what they want to see for our community. We know it all too well. People grow up in Winona, they move away for whatever reason, jobs, life, love, whatever it might be. But oftentimes they pine about getting back to Winona again because it is such a wonderful place to live. And once you leave for a little bit, you realize how great it is. There's a lot of us that are here all the time, and we appreciate it as well. But I think being able to really start to engage with the youth in our community, getting them involved in what we do and how we do things, I think would really be beneficial to our community. I would love to see us really increase that housing opportunity within Winona, and I think we have that opportunity. We'll do it. We'll do it slowly and cautiously, but I really do think that we're making great strides in moving in that direction. I think that we are fiscally sound right now. I'm happy about that. I'd like to see us continue on that path and find alternative funding sources for the priorities that our community is asking for. And again, a lot of times that comes back to park and rec. A lot of times that comes to environment, making sure that we have a clean, healthy, and safe place to live. And that is something that I would like to see continue to happen within the next 5 to 10 years. We will always have a diversity of economy here, which I think we're very lucky to have. We are insulated from upswings and downswings in the larger economy, the national or the international economy, because we have such diversity of industry here. And that includes everything from raw materials, manufacturing, retail, restaurant, and our higher eds. We have to remember that we are pumping out a resource out of those higher eds, and that's HR, and that's probably our most valuable resource. But quite honestly, all of those together create a healthy, strong community. And I think we have the opportunity to really grow that over the next 5 to 10 years using the different tools that we have in the toolbox.
Mayor Sherman, thank you so much for your time today. It's always great to talk to you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dave. I do appreciate the opportunity.
And thank you everyone for tuning in today to the Local Pulse. And we'll see you next time here on Ep13.